What is going on, guys? Jack here, and welcome back to episode 99 of the Charge to the Top, here with Hereford FC, and we are back, and well, we are here in the Premier League, of course. If you missed last episode, it was the end of season review for season 11. And well, over the summer, it's been an interesting summer with one kind of big problem I've had to solve, and that big problem has been homegrown players, and specifically homegrown players for Europe and actually in the league as well. It's both kind of competitions they've proven problematic, and it's been something that I've been trying to work around, and I feel like we're in an okay position, I guess, now going into the new season. Of course, last season we did very well, we finished 4th. This year I feel like 4th is the aim again. I feel like that's where we want to be aiming to be. If we look here at the season preview, we are predicted to come 6th. I think that is testament to the quality of our squad and also how we performed last season. So here's hoping we can have a good season. We can, get European football once more. Interestingly enough, Chelsea, favourites to win the league, didn't actually finish in the top 4 last year. Maybe they've done a fair bit of business in the transfer window. Either way, of course, you'll notice it's the 14th of August. I have played the first game of the season, but the reason that we're not back until now is because I had a few transfer dealings which were still going on, and well, actually a fair few that didn't really come to fruition in the end, which was a little bit of a shame. Anyway, you'll notice on the outs, £120 million made in sales. Yes, we have been very busy on the outs, which isn't something I thought I was going to do, but well, there's a few reasons for it, really. The big problem I've got is last year in the Premier League, if we look at the registration, you have to have a minimum of 3 players trained in England before their 21st birthday, but players under the age of 20 don't have to be registered. And last year we had a young squad full of 20-year-olds and under 20-year-olds who didn't have to be registered. This year, they all needed to be registered. And so I had a homegrown problem. As I mentioned, we don't really have that many homegrown players. You'll see we now have 4 homegrown players in Nation and 2 players who will be due eventually to be homegrown at club. But as a result of that kind of problem, I've had to bring in a lot of young English talent for a hell of a lot of money, more than I would have liked. But anyway, let's look at the outs first. As I mentioned, a few players here. The big motivation, I guess, for selling these players was simply that because of how we've been getting on and, well, because of the homegrown player issue, a lot of these players I wouldn't have been able to register, and so I had to really condense down the squad size. So it was a case of selling players who I felt like were players worth selling because they weren't offering a lot in the first team, but also players I knew we could get a lot of money for. And well, the first player here, Joseph Fall, a player who we've never actually seen play in the first team, he's left us to go to Liverpool for £38 million. You'll see last year we loaned him out to Besiktas. He got 15 goals and 7 assists in 25 games, played very well in the Turkish Premier League. And well, Liverpool, they lost their star man in the summer. That, of course, Gonzalo Palacios. He has gone, much like Luis Suarez, to FC Barcelona, and as a result they were in need of a new striker, and I think they panic bought Joseph Fall, if I'm honest, but their loss is our gain, and £38 million was a fee I couldn't reject for a player who's never played in the first team for us. He looks fantastic, this guy, don't get me wrong, but £38 million is a hell of a lot of money to reinvest, and as I mentioned, he probably wouldn't have been able to be registered in our first team this season. Anyway, the next player who left us, Jeff Valenzuela, he has gone to the United States. No, he's not. I've lied. He's gone to Newcastle, but he's from the United States. I don't know where that came from. Of course, last year he was out with a broken foot, which was problematic. It did hinder his development, and at 22 years old, I've decided to cash in on him. We've sold him for £20.5 million up front, but with various clauses, that clause kind of cost could see the total transfer rise as high as £34.5 million. And well, to be honest, for Valenzuela, I was pretty happy with £20 million. So to have a deal where we get lots of money up front and there's still, a few clauses that could come in for us, I think it's a good little bit of business. Anyway, the next player I sold, Silla, a player who, if you told me a few years ago I was going to sell him, I would have laughed at you. But we did let him go. 26 years old, of course. Last year, scored 6 goals in 18 games. Not the greatest of returns. His average rating wasn't too great. We've sold him to Everton for £19.5 million. And as you can see, he made one appearance for them. He got a goal and was man of the match. I might be regretting that sale in the future, but it's a sale that I felt like had to be done. Anyway, the next sale was Mustafa Hamdi to Brighton. £13.5 million they paid, with an option for it to rise to £21 million. And, well, to be honest, I didn't really want to sell Hamdi, but Brighton were very kind to me and we did a bit of a swapsy. So they got Mustafa Hamdi, and the player we signed for £36 million, yes, a club record transfer, is this guy, Jamil Willie, 26 years old, England centre mid, international player, loads of experience, homegrown in Nation. I love the look of this guy. I think he's going to be a great deep line playmaker for us on that defend duty. You can see really is well suited to be this kind of deeper playmaker. His passing's great, his vision's great, his physicals are very well rounded. His lack of ability in the air is perhaps a little bit of a concern, but all in all, for the kind of majority of his stats, they're above 10, and he just really is just a fantastically well rounded kind of midfielder. Not the greatest going forward, but where we need to play him, he's going to be very good for us. And so with him going to us from Brighton for £36 million, they offered to buy Mustafa Hamdi in return. Anyway, just a few more sales to go through real quick. Babkar Dia has gone to Ajax. Another Senegalese player like Joseph Fall, who didn't get a work permit, never really made an appearance for us. He has moved on. Jamie Price has left us for £7 million, a player who I didn't really want to sell, but, well, I feel like it's a deal that kind of makes sense as far as we're concerned. You can see he scored 2 goals in 8 games last year. The year before that, 2 goals in 21. He's never really found his feet in the Premier League after that initial flurry of goals in his first season. And as a result, £7 million. Nice healthy profit, I guess, off him is what we've made. Anyway, a few other kind of different sales going on here. Osvaldo Riquelme has joined Aston Villa. He, of course, was a Chilean player we signed last year, didn't really play in the team that much. Sugano, a young Japanese player, just never really developed, has gone out for £3.4 million. Minor Siciliano, gone to Young Boys. Ben Marshall has gone to Hearts for £1.7 million. That could also rise. And David Gums has gone to Rotherham, perhaps the pick of the bunch there, although, as you'll see, there's a fair few players who did leave us this season for kind of tiny bits of money as part of kind of my campaign, I guess, really to strip down the squad size. Anyway, I mentioned Jamil Willie, a few other players we brought in. Lewis Murray, the first of them, a talented young Scottish centre-back, a player who I actually agreed to sign a number of years ago now when he was young, and my scouts said he was going to be really good. His potential ability isn't as good as I was hoping, if I'm honest, but he looks very good as a defender at 18 years old. If he can improve his pace a little bit, if he can get those mentals up, I still have hopes for this guy. Obviously 18 years old, so he comes in, he doesn't need a work permit because he's Scottish, and he will have the potential to become homegrown at the club, which is obviously something that we do need to start working towards. Anyway, the next player we have, Pablo Rodriguez, 20 years old, just a little winger. He's gone to Empoli on loan. I think he could be a good player going forward in the future, you know, a relatively cheap signing at £1 million. Another South American player who joined us with a view to maybe develop him, maybe sell him on for some money is this guy, Juan Mora, 18 years old, considered a wonder kid. He's gone on loan to Nantes in France. I think he could be a good player going forward. He's only 18 years old, really well-rounded centre mid, and as you can see, he was playing for the Colombian under-21 squad, which is where we found him. Anyway, another first-team player here, Hernan Moreno, joins us. Good little right-back, the Argentine, currently out of a back strain, which is a little bit of a shame, but you can see in his debut in the Premier League, he did get an assist, and that was actually a result where we beat Derby County to start our season. In fact, I've lied there. Who was it? We got Derby County today. It was Crystal Palace we beat. We beat them 3-1, and yeah, Moreno got a little assist in that game. Anyway, the next player we brought in is this guy, Wassim Khediri. He's a good right mid. Bit of a reactionary one, this one too, because during pre-season, Marc Torres broke his foot, or broke his ankle. He's out for a number of months. It's really going to hurt him. His physicals are going to decline, one of his big strengths. And I needed a new right mid, and so I was kind of sat thinking, who can I bring in? You know, how can I solve this problem? And I feel like when you look at Khediri, he is significantly better than Marc Torres in a few different areas. And well, if we look at the Khediri deal, it was pretty cheap, £16.25 million for a player who, I don't know, I feel like he's really impressed at Benfica over the years, and you can see an assist on his debut for us. Hopefully that's the first of many. Anyway, the next 5 players, all youngsters who I've brought in, all young English players. The view with these guys, of course, to get them homegrown. You'll notice a lot of them were signed on the same day. The reason for that being is I scouted a hell of a lot of young English players. In fact, if we look at it here, age at most 21, we'll put nationality on English. I scouted a hell of a lot of young players. And I went through and I was basically looking for the best of the bunch. And the ones that I've signed are the players who had the most potential, but also the teams were willing to go for reasonable prices. I'm sure you've had it in Football Manager. You see a really good young player, you think, wow, he looks really good. He's playing for Chelsea. Great determination. Let's bring him in, make an offer. £1.9 million. And they come back with a stupid bid, kind of, and demands like £70 million, essentially saying he's not for sale. And so I had all these different players scouted, and the players I've signed here are those players who, I was able to get done for reasonable deals for their potential. It's worth noting the reason they were all signed on the same day, a lot of them, is because I just offered them really big contracts they instantly accepted. I find sometimes when you try and sign young players in advance for, big fees, the club that they're from just offer them a professional deal and then you can't sign them, and it gets very annoying and is a little bit sad. So anyway, let's look at these youngsters. The first one we have here, Paul Holt. He is a centre attacking mid. He could also play left mid, maybe a centre mid in the future too. Joins us from Crystal Palace. A big fee paid for him, £7 million, but you can see, looking at his potential, a player who, I don't know, the kind of staff seem to really rate here. So I'm hoping, obviously, that he can develop and become homegrown. Another Crystal Palace player was this guy, Danny Gatting. He looks like he could be a pretty good striker going forward. Again, reasonable potential, 16 years old, brought in for a decent little fee of £4 million. A cheaper option here, Chris Abodo. Good striker, signed from Everton. He looks fairly good. He's kind of got good finishing, composure, and off the ball for his kind of age. If he can improve that composure, he's going to have some exceptional striking stats. His physicals aren't too bad. They're reasonably well-rounded. His mentals, there's a few gaps in there, and his heading is less than ideal for a lone forward. But again, 16 years old, room to develop. Another player we brought in for £2 million, Robert Clark. This guy doesn't look that great, if I'm honest, in terms of his current ability, and I probably wouldn't have signed him other than the fact that my scouts said that they thought he was going to be really, really good, and so I kind of just bit the bullet and thought, fair enough, let's bring him in. As you can see, £2 million the fee paid. Hopefully he comes good, but £2 million really isn't that much of a risk. So put a bit of faith in my scouts with that one, to be honest. Anyway, there's one that stands out a little bit more than the rest, and it's this guy, David Fitzpatrick. £20 million. Yes, I don't know. I've spent too much here, but 16 years old, potential is exceptional. Probably the best of the bunch here. Was one of the best players I scouted, full stop. Hence the fact I was willing to pay £20 million for him. We've brought him in from Bournemouth. I think he's going to be a very good player. If we look at his report, he's got great flair, has the kind of League 2 ability. He's only 16 years old. He's a professional player, has resolute characteristics. Obviously, his pace is just sublime. 17 pace, 14 acceleration. If you can improve some of those physicals, his stamina, his strength, this guy could be so well-rounded. I mean, he looks like a pretty good winger, to be honest, at the moment. He can play on the right wing, but he is also, capable of playing centre attacking mid or left attacking mid. In terms of how I see this guy developing, if we look at his training, I'm training him down the middle as a centre attacking midfielder. The reason for that being is that I kind of want to improve his mentals as best as I can and his technicals. Obviously, physicals, they're not set in stone, but it's a lot more difficult to improve a player's physicals. So I have got him with his stamina being trained at the moment, because I do see that as a gap in his game that if we can improve, he's going to be very good. He's 16 years old, loads of room to improve. It's a massive gamble on this guy, if I'm being completely honest, but I'm hoping he can develop. And he is a player who, if we get towards the latter stages of the season and we're kind of pretty safe in the league, I might be tempted to chance him in the first team, which might seem a little bit mad, but I feel like it's the best way for a player like this to develop. And he's a bit like our Theo Walcott. That's how I describe him. Walcott was signed for, was it £16 million from Southampton back in the day? Fitzpatrick, please don't end up like Walcott and be injured all the time, but hopefully he can be the good player for us. So anyway, those are the transfers we've done. You'll notice a lot more outs than ins, and a lot of those ins, of course, were younger players. I mean, if we look at our squad, I'm relatively happy with it. You kind of look across it as a whole, there's not that many new faces in there. It's just been a bit of a clean out. Obviously, Jamil Willie has come straight into the first team. But the exception of that, it's really been a few of the younger players. I'm kind of moving up the pecking order and then getting rid of the players who are kind of surplus to requirements. In terms of the squad, obviously the issue I have is that because of the lack of homegrown players, we have to have a smaller squad. So the maximum squad size you can have is 25. We actually have to keep spaces in the team because of the lack of homegrown players. And it's actually a similar story if we look in the Champions League here. We have no players trained at the club as homegrown, so we have to leave spaces for that. And we also have limited homegrown players in nation. As a result, we have a registered squad of 20 players instead of the 25 that you could have with, homegrown players, which we don't have. I don't know how many times I'm going to say that. That's going to be the theme of this episode, I feel like. So in terms of the team, it's fairly strong. You've got Jaziri, Andy O'Neill currently playing right back. That's because of the injury to our new right back, the Argentine, whose name I've now forgotten. Where are you? Here he is, Moreno. So he's out injured with a back strain. So Andy O'Neill's gone to right back. Centre of the kind of defence, we've got Alexandro, of course, the Brazilian. Alongside him, Miguel Morales, a player who has signed a new contract at the club, which is absolutely fantastic. A 5-year deal. Exactly the kind of deal we wanted. Also removed his release clause. Mustafa Diatta holds down his position at left back. Of course, a player who was in the Premier League Team of the Year last year. Jamil Willy comes in at deep line playmaker. Marcos Lustau, the star of the show, still improved a lot last year, the 22-year-old. He's looking like a fantastic little investment at £17 million. Of course, 4 years left on his current contract. We have the option to extend it by another 3 years. We have this guy tied down for the foreseeable future, and that is something that I can't be happier about. He's absolutely fantastic for us. Anyway, Kadiri, of course, new right midfielder, signed from Benfica. He had a good debut, as already mentioned. Juan Carlos Acuna had a lot of interest in him over the summer. Real Madrid came knocking. They bid £50 million, and I rejected it. And I'm a little bit worried I'm going to regret that, because he didn't really perform last year, the youngster. Didn't perform on the first game of this season either. But at 21 years old, he feels like a player who should be incredible. You look at him, you look at his report card, he's consistent, he's driven, Premier League player, has potential to improve, is an international. And he never has really turned up for us. And I'm hoping that this year is going to be the turnaround year for him. We're playing him in his natural position, in his best role. And well, hopefully he can step up to the plate. Anyway, at left mid, Cameron Bowman playing inside forward. The Australian, he's been at the club a number of years now, one of the few homegrown players on the horizon. And well, you look at him last year, 5 goals, 12 assists, was playing out wide. First game of the season, he grabbed a brace, got man of the match, a 9.1 average rating for him. And of course, Fred Kasongo is leading the line. So that's kind of what I consider to be our best starting 11 at the moment going into this game against Derby County. As I mentioned, we did play one game to start the season. It was against Crystal Palace. We won 3-1. Pretty good performance all around. We came back from a goal down. We were the better team by a very large margin, to be honest. And as I said, Bowman grabbed a brace. Kasongo also got a goal from the striker position. So the ideal start, really, to the season. You're probably wondering, Jack, what's on the plans for next episode? Well, episode 100, of course. It's going to be a triple header, I think. Maybe a 4-way header. We've got Marseille, Tottenham, Marseille and Newcastle. Of course, the Champions League best place playoff games. We need to win those to get to the group stage. I expect us to win them, although, being completely honest, we could have had an easier draw than Marseille. They have some good players here that I'd be a liar if I was to say I'm not a little bit scared of. So that's going to be a cracker next episode. And yeah, we'll probably have a few transfers also going on. So it'll probably be a fairly long episode for episode 100. But anyway, let's focus on the here and now. We're taking on Derby County. We've talked about the new signings. As I said, it's really been about kind of stripping down the first team and also bringing in a lot of young players to be homegrown in the future. And well, with Brexit and all that happening in this save, young players, young English players specifically, they don't come cheap. Fortunately, you know, we have somebody to wiggle with. You may have noticed we've actually made profit this summer in the transfer window. Don't think that I don't have any money left to spend. I've got about £40 million and £200,000 of wage budget if I want to spend it. The issue being is, I want to spend it, but if I sign a player who's not English, isn't homegrown in England, or in Britain, I can't actually register them. So I'm kind of looking at a young English player, you know, someone from maybe Arsenal or Chelsea, 2 teams who have very good English players in this save who aren't called to their first team. But the issue is, of course, that English players, as I already mentioned, they're very expensive. And I feel like Jamil Willy, I mean, you saw £38 million to him. He was the best young English first team player I could bring in from the national team. There's a few other players I've looked at. I just don't know if I want to pay the fees that Arsenal and Chelsea want for them, unfortunately. We're talking in excess of £40 million for players I'm not entirely convinced would improve the first team. Anyway, let's see how we get on here. Worth noting, Derby County do have Rumsby and Needham in their team, 2 of our former men. So, well, we're hoping to put them to the sword today. And, well, Cameron Bowman, using his pace out wide, unfortunately couldn't get on to the end of that. Although it's now with Rumsby. We know Rumsby's weakness. He's slow. And we have fast strikers. And we're going to try and make something happen here. Kasongo beats his man Acuna. Maybe I should have sold him to Real Madrid, because that was a really good opportunity to score, and he skied it, unfortunately, for us. But yeah, we are persisting with the 4-2-3-1 system that we used last year. Or I shouldn't call it a 4-2-3-1. It kind of is. It's more of a 4-3-3, really. It's just asymmetric in the middle. But yeah, we are kind of continuing on with this system. There wasn't really a reason to change it. As I said, we've not really changed that much of the first team this year. A little bit of strength added here and there. But it's more of the same. And well, Kasongo hitting the woodwork. I need us to find the back of the net here. I'm a little bit worried that we're on top in this game by a margin against the kind of Derby County side, who I do believe are newly promoted, and we're just not quite breaking them down. We could still make something happen here. Cameron Bowman can't even beat the first man with that. And well, it goes out for a corner. I can't work out now if this is a really long pointless highlight or if we're about to score the ball in. Loader, who's on a booking, has cleared it. I did notice Jamil Willie, number 13, he is on a booking. He has got to be careful today. Could get in a little bit of trouble if he's not too careful here. But anyway, 35 minutes gone in this game. Derby with just the one shot all game. We've had 60% of the ball. We've created 2 clear-cut chances, 2 half chances. We've hit the woodwork. Can we now get the goal before half-time? Acuna pulls it back to Diatta, the left-back. I don't know what he's doing there, the left-back. But he has almost scored for us. The keeper parries it out wide. And I want to call this a resilient display by Derby, but I feel like really it's not them being resilient. It's us lacking some killer instinct in the box just to find a goal. We have got another corner here. The corner count really is racking up. We've had 8 so far and we're only in the first half. Bowman once again, disappointing delivery, but this time it does find its way to the back post and, well, we've earned another corner. Ricketts heads it over and it just feels like this is just replay of pointless corner highlights as now Howard is going to collect the ball and I can only assume going to boot it up the pitch. And, well, 0-0. I'm going to tell the players I'm not happy with that performance so far. It's disappointing. Kadiri's not in the greatest performance out wide. Lou Stow, one of our big kind of key players, not performing great. Willie is on a booking. We've got to be careful there. I'm a little bit concerned. He is, of course, playing that deep line playmaker on defend role. Why is Needham playing out on the left? I don't like that. Our former man. And, well, O'Neill, just give him a little kind of welcome, I guess. Of course, former teammates, O'Neill and Needham. I do believe they played in the same Hereford side as one another. I'm now trying to think, did they? They might have missed each other by a year, you know. Either way, they're rivals on the pitch. Needham, he knows the Hereford side. So does Gumsby as well. But this isn't really their Hereford side they remember. This is a Hereford side competing in the Champions League. And a Hereford side that, let's be honest, should be winning this game. It's still 0-0. I feel like we need to make some changes here. Willie is on a booking. I'm going to take him off for Akasu. I'm going to bring in Jonathan Chan for Lou Stow, who's struggling. We have one last change. I'm going to bring in Fred Harris, the young South African, as a complete forward. He is coming onto the pitch. Worth noting, Fred Harris was a World Cup in the summer, if I remember correctly. He won World Cup Player of the Year. Or Young Player of the World Cup, sorry. I think, was there a World Cup this year? Now I'm worried I'm making things up. If there was a World Cup, that happened. We need to defend here. Let's not give away a penalty, a Soro. I mean, Derby County are winning this game. I don't know how. We've not been very good today. This is not what I wanted to see from us. This is the kind of game we need to romp to a victory, and we need to be winning this by just a really comfortable margin. And as things are, I hate to use the term we're being FM'd. It kind of feels like we're being FM though. One of the first chances Derby's had come their way. We've been very kind of inaccurate on goal. You can see only 2 shots on target for us. And, well, fair play to Derby. They've taken the one chance that came their way. Some sloppy defending here. I mean, we're just 4 men surrounding the goal with the ball. That should never happen. I want to blame the match engine for that. I'm going to blame the fact that our players have terrible decision-making on that. That was awful marking. And, well, 15 minutes left. We have to try and turn around our fortunes here. I'm going to change the wing-backs to be more attacking. Acuna can go more attacking. We've got to be more direct here as well, you'd imagine. Tempo's already high. We're already pressing high. I can't really do too much more. I guess we could close down even more, but, well, there's not a lot of time left in this game to try and make something big happen for us here. And, well, I'm looking in the top left and watching the time just trickle away here. We've made all 3 changes at once. They've been in vain. We've been on top in this game for large spells. The first half was entirely ours, but unfortunately, unless there's a late goal here, we're going out. And, well, Bowman, he looked offside. He's not offside. I'll take it back. We've stolen a point. It still feels like 2 points dropped. But Cameron Bowman does it again. He's scored a few big goals for us over the last year. He's got 3 goals this season in 2 games. Kadiri, lovely ball by him to that kind of far side. The 2 wide attacking midfielders linking up with one another. It's a shame that it's only going to be 1-1 here because it does just feel like we should have won this game by a more comfortable margin. Unless there's another goal in it, in which case I should pipe down Acuna. Harris, I mean, he could have got there as well. Unfortunately, the referee decides to end things before we can complete the comeback. I'm going to tell the players they were unlucky today. I feel like on another day we win that game relatively comfortably. Derby County, fair play to them. You know, a plucky performance from a newly promoted side. They did lose their first game of the season, so to draw with them here is less than ideal. As I mentioned, next episode, it's going to be Champions League time. It's going to be Marseille to kick things off. It's going to be a big episode 100. I will say now, thank you very much to everyone who's been showing their support on this series over the years, in FM, over the months, in real life. It's been good fun. It's been a bit of a slog to begin with, but I really feel like we've got a great squad here that hopefully over the next few years we can develop into a little bit of a European powerhouse. But anyway, guys, that is going to wrap up everything from me. Thank you so much for watching, as always. If you have enjoyed, do leave a like on the video. If you've got any comments, leave them down below. Let me know what you made of our transfers. Are there any more players that I should be looking at here? You know, there's more young English players. I'm looking at Ben Marshall, maybe, or not Ben Marshall, sorry, Adam Marshall as a maybe. He's 21 years old. Can play both fullback positions, could be very good. Has no hope of ever becoming homegrown at club, but could become a homegrown player at Nation. And yeah, there are a few other players here, like this guy, Luke Spillane. Great hair. How much do Crystal Palace want for him? 15 million. I'm probably going to have to pay £7 million for him. And if we just compare him to Fitzpatrick, it probably gives a good idea, a good indication of just the difference between Fitzpatrick and Spillane here. You can see the difference is night and day. Fitzpatrick is already a very, very talented player with a great future, whereas Spillane, there's a lot of work to get him up to his potential. I don't know. Let me know what you think. I'm going to go through these players again. There might be some I've missed. If we look at value here, there's still a few players who have gaps in the knowledge. As I said, Arsenal do have some good English players. So I'll just show you here. They have some good English players. It's just a case of, can we agree a deal with them that's kind of reasonable? Someone like Sam Tolley could be a good player. Just don't know how much we're going to play him, really. But anyway, guys, that is going to wrap up everything from me. Thank you for watching this episode 99, as I already said. I will see you guys for episode 100. It is me, Jack, and I will talk to you guys in a bit. I'm out.